if you guys are new. But let's move into the defensive line coach that has not signed yet, but it appears that all signs are pointing to Gerald Chapman. And a lot of people were kind of scratching the head, like, who is this? Not a big splash hire, but when you kind of peel back the layers a little bit and start looking into it, it's like, hey, it's an exciting, potential big hire here. And before I let you go, Dave, about Gerald Chapman, I was talking with Connor Clark before the show. We're gonna have that drop separately. It was a great show, and something that he mentioned that Billy is going to be struggling with is, look, it is very evidently clear that the seat is extremely hot for Billy, and he has to be successful headed into next year. And if you're a coach, a position coach, you see that there. It's not like it's a secret. And I would imagine Billy goes, "Hey, shit's hot over here. We got to rock and roll." Meaning it's going to be hard to sell somebody because they're taking the risk to go work with Billy on the off chance that, 80-20, that my job may not exist because the guy that brought me in is not going to be here, and the chances the next guy keeps me are very slim. So everybody that we're looking after to go get is taking a chance and buying into Billy. He also kind of referred that to why Hughes is having such a great recruiting cycle, because he's still able to sell the dream of what could be. Also, why I think we had two good recruiting cycles the first 2 years, because Billy could sell a dream. He could sell the pipe dream. Now you got 2 years of production. It's a little bit harder to sell that. So anybody that buys in, you got to be okay. Well, this guy's extremely bought in. He's trusting what Billy has told him. He's trusting in himself because he's taking not only a chance on Billy, but his career to go out here and do this, to go out into a big Power 5 conference and to, look, regardless of what happens, he may do a fantastic job, but Billy could still lose his job, and none of that matters, and he's got to take a step back. So, look, it's not the answer that you want to hear, but this is partly why you're like, wait, why aren't we getting the splash higher? This is another part. Now, to that, don't go anywhere. When we talk about the strength and conditioning coach, it's going to be a splash higher from what we're hearing, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a moment. But tell us your thoughts on Gerald Chapman here, old Swolder.
Yeah, I mean, Gerald Chapman, he's very interesting because he's been like everywhere. I mean, he started at like Ball State University. Well, he didn't start there, but he's been at Ball State University, Tennessee State, Texas A&M. He worked as a graduate assistant. I mean, you look at some of the resumes. He's had some time in the National Football League with the Bengals. LSU. I mean, when you just look at like his body of work and his resume, I mean, it speaks for itself, and he's yielded plenty good results. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, LSU fans, saying, "Hey, this is not a bad hire. This is actually a good hire for Florida." He seems like one of those guys that likes to go to programs and prove himself. So maybe he wants to come into this program and prove that, hey, maybe I can improve this defensive line. I can show on my resume that I took this defensive line that couldn't stop the run, had Ray Davis run him over for 280 yards. You know, not get any sacks or pressures on anybody. Maybe I can bolster this defensive line, or maybe I can coach this defensive line and put this on my resume. I mean, if you go look up his accolades, especially on the Tulane website, man, he has a lot of good like resume on it. So sometimes, man, and I'll even say this: sometimes the splash hires sometimes don't even work out. I mean, when Corey Raymond was hired, we thought, okay, well, this defense, these corners are going to get better. Never really did. And at the same time, Corey Raymond, when it came to cornerbacks, he only signed like maybe one elite cornerback in 2 years. So, I mean, look, I don't, as long as they're put in a good situation and they can go out there and recruit, you should be able to be a pretty good coach at what you do. I mean, look at Jay Bateman right now. I mean, he's probably our best recruiter on the staff right now. You're probably not going to get very many dislikes from the linebackers here in the future just because of what you've brought in. They still got to develop, of course, but like you've brought in quality linebackers in this class and the class before, and so on and so on and so on. So I think it's a good hire. I wouldn't say it's like some elite, awesome hire and he's going to come in here and change everything around, but I do like the fact that his resume speaks for itself. LSU fans endorsed it. And I mean, the defensive line, I mean, I always say it can't get any worse because I said that in 2021 and it got worse in 2022. So I'll just say I hope it improves. It's got to improve.
Yeah, and look, this little thing was kind of flying around the internet because it's Carlos Dunlap, Coach O, Geno Atkins, and BJ Ojolora, all guys that were
Yeah.
testing to Gerald Chapman and who he is as a coach, because he did work on Bengal staff for a little bit, worked at LSU like you stated, and I think a few other Power Five conference schools. I can't remember, but you were even looking before. He's been all over the place. He's been around. I
Yeah,
like it.
he's been in the NFL and Power 5 conference and the SEC.
Honestly, like the things we've complained about from other coaches, he kind of carries every attribute outside of just a flashy resume, right? But he's seen a lot. He's touched a lot of big time guys, and the guys that are supporting and backing what he's been able to bring. I think says a lot. So we'll see how it plays out. I think it's also somebody too who's gonna be bought into the process, bought into what Armstrong. And again, if we're trusting Billy, and I know some people are already off that train, that's fine. I'm speaking as if too that we're bought in. That's how the mindset should be because here we are. To constantly sit here and talk each day fighting against what's happening would just be exhaustion, right? So I like the hire, but let's talk about the strength